What's going on, collector? Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Admiral. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Okay, so the last video that I just did, polarity is probably still uploading at this point, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do the next video. So we talked about the law of mentalism, correspondence, vibration, gender, polarity, and now we're going to talk about rhythm. Okay, so in the last video we talked about polarity, correct? And for this sake, I'm going to draw a line because of how for simplicity's sake, right? So essentially, with the law of rhythm, it goes back to the law of mentalism, right? Because essentially what happens is rhythm, essentially, and this is me creating my own definition of this, so don't peer quote me, right? Essentially what rhythm means, it's a consistent pattern, right? It's a consistent pattern, right? When it comes to consistent patterns, a rhythm follows a certain chord, just like a lock has a rhythm, and the key has to have the right rhythm. A key has to have the right rhythm to unlock a lock, because with the wrong rhythm, the teeth that's connected to that key will not unlock that lock. You see what I'm saying? I know it's weird, but that's essentially what rhythm is, right? Also, when it comes to rhythm, it has everything to do with okay, so I'll put it like this. The law of rhythm, it helps us to be able to predict what's to come. And then it gives us the option to decide if we want to stay on that current path or if we want to deviate. Because essentially, one of the laws of Godsmanship has, well, when it comes to being a god or being God's, Godsmanship or whatever, right? One of the sacred laws is that God has the power to see everything that we're going to do contingent that we follow a certain path. You know what that means? If we deviate, those possibilities change. You see what I'm saying? So let's say, for example, you have the option to take a cookie, right? Now, when God sees this, he sees the person who was supposed to get that cookie. He sees what you do after the cookie. He sees if you walk away from the cookie. He sees if somebody else stole the cookie. He sees if you could take the cookie and bring it back. He sees, you know what I'm saying? It's all these possibilities at one time, contingent that you stay on this path. So basically, when he looks into your future, and he sees that you take the cookie, right? He see you move into this space here where you take the cookie. He sees all the contingencies around that action of you taking that cookie. And then he's like, okay, well, I don't want you to go this way because it's going to lead to some kind of danger here at some point. So I think I'll just kind of convince you to turn back around and go this way, away from this possible danger here. Because once you take this cookie, you're going to get brolic and take something else. And then you're going to invent somebody else to take it. And then they're going to snitch on you and you're going to get locked up, essentially. You see what I'm saying? And it's not always in that manner, but, it's just for the sake of explanation, right? So with the law of rhythm, I went too far back. Let me go just a little bit back. So the law of that Godsmanship law has to do about contingencies, right? So the reason why I brought that up is because when you are making decisions based on a certain rhythm, that right there, it not only teaches other people what it doesn't only put you in comfort with other people because people know what to expect from you. Because essentially what happens is what stresses people out the most about other people is being unknown, is the unknown, believe it or not. We as humans, we are very, I would say, I'm not going to say fearful, but we worry about the unknown a lot. Things that is outside of our control. You know what I'm saying? Things we don't have control over, essentially. That's what that has the tendency to stress us out more in life than anything else. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to people, we like we we tend to like people that we can predict. You know what I'm saying? People that are predictable are the people that we tend to like the most, because we know what to say to get them to do certain things, or we know what to expect when we deal with those people, right? We know what to expect. It's the same with, spirituality or your relationship with God, right? When God knows what to expect from you, it's a lot easier for you in your relationship. When you know what to expect from God, it makes your relationship a lot easier. You see what I'm saying? So with this law of rhythm here, the reason why I say that is because these two poles here, right, are both extreme. And with this being extreme, it doesn't mean that it's something bad. Let's say we are extremely for something, and then on this side, we are extremely against something, right? And then this is the middle ground, right? When it comes to dealing with people, people have a tendency to gravitate towards people who are extremely for something or extremely against something. That's how our human nature is designed to be, because when you are extremely for something, we can make predictions based off of what decision you will make and what, you know what I mean? It's easier to read you. Same thing if you're extremely against something. We know what is up with you. We know where you stand. Now, it's the people in the middle ground that most people are uncomfortable with, because you don't know if this person is going to go this way or this way or this way or that way, or for how far they're going to go, right? So with the law of rhythm, essentially here, this has to do with, being able to predict the future or see where we are heading in the future based off of what the events that take place in the past, essentially, right? So I'm going to take a step back and we're going to examine history. We're going to correlate this to history, right? So in history, we have all these great empires, right? We have the Roman Empire. We have the Egyptian Empire. We have the Persians, right? We have the Carthage. I'll just say Carthage. We have the Greeks. It's a whole lot of, I'm just, this is just to get it, going or whatever, right? We have all these great empires, right? So when it comes to these great empires, there's a rule of thumb that is followed. There's a rhythm that is followed that tells you where you are in society and what's going to happen, essentially, right? So it's like this. When these civilizations first started, and you can see it in their artwork, right? We'll correlate it to art history and art history. When they all first started in these civilizations, when they did create something, they created it around their gods, right? And then after that, they created things around their lesser gods, right? And then they created things around the kings or those who were in power. And then they went about the nobles, people who had money. And then the athletes, who were like the heroes. And then at the last, it was the average everyday person. Okay? When each civilization follow these six, I would say, because I thought it was more than that, but apparently it's not. When they follow these six, what happens is there's a societal reset. That starts that society all the way back over to square one. We saw this especially in the Greek and the Roman Empire, where all of their artwork was surrounded around the gods. And then they started incorporating the lesser gods, right? And then they started glorifying the kings, right? And then the nobles, and then the athletes and heroes. And then finally, when they got to the point where they started worshiping like their average everyday people, when their artwork started reflecting the average everyday life of individuals, what happened was the Rome went through a civil war. And then their power was reduced in, I would say, a fraction of what it used to be. The Greeks lost massive amount of power. They reduced down to a fraction of what they used to be. Same with the Egyptian Empire. Same with the Persian Empire. The same with the Carthaginians and the Carthage. And I believe the Carthage, what were they called? Just one moment. Just give me a moment. And I could think of the name when it comes to Carthage. I believe it's governed by Hannibal. Hannibal was from Carthage. I can't remember, but I just know that they were traders out there in the Middle Eastern. I mean, they were like, traders and stuff like that. They went around trading goods and stuff like that. But so that's why I just put Carthage, right? But either way, when you follow these 6 rules, that's when you have that society reset. So let's look at, let's say, America, right? Let's look at America, right? This is how you know we are due for a societal reset. When we first came over here, we worshiped who? God. And anything that didn't worship God was what? Killed off, hurt, harmed, hunted down. And that's where we had the Salem witch trials, right? A lot of Protestants, right? And then we started worshiping lesser gods, right? So essentially, after that Protestant energy or that, Catholicism and things of that nature, what happened here is that we got into, the energy of like worshiping, like, let's say, like angels and, like archangels and stuff like that, archangels. And we will see that in the development of, I forgot that there was this one religion where this guy was working in the field and he claimed that some angels came to him and gave him a message, and he created a whole religion off of that message, and it included like polygamy and stuff like that. And I can't remember what it was called, but I do remember that it was such a thing. But anyway, the society began to worship, lesser gods like archangels and things of that nature. It was like, from God Almighty, now we're asking, like, you know what I mean? So, and then next we started worshiping our rulers, right? What we call them? Forefathers, right? So with these forefathers, we started, well, we call them presidents. There we go. Our presidents and stuff like that. We started glorifying our presidents. We got them on our money. We're carrying them around with us everywhere we go. You know what I mean? And yeah, essentially our kings, right? So then number 4, we started worshiping our nobles. So these are the people who had money. Nobles are the reason why we had the Civil War to begin with. It wasn't about just, just about slavery, as most people would thought. It wasn't just about that. It had to do with power. You see what I'm saying? The allocation of power, because essentially one side wanted, the slaves to be counted one way, but in when it came to like representation in Senate, they wanted them to be counted a different way. So it's like either you have to give them, citizenship to be counted this way and you get the power, or you don't count them at all and we make the rules. So that's when we started worshiping like nobles and stuff like that. And it was around the time of slavery, because a lot, for obvious reasons, right? So then from there, we went to the athletes and the heroes. You will see these in our textbook as civil rights leaders, civil rights warriors. We had, and it's not just for like, blacks, but there was civil rights leadership for all, backgrounds is what I want to say. Every background that exists in America has some kind of leadership or some kind of event or movement behind it. Some were more powerful and others were just as powerful or not as powerful, but still had the same impact. You know what I'm saying? So this right here had to do with our heroes, right? Now, as of recently, we have fell down into this average everyday person. The beginning of this phase here began with what? The selfie. When there was the rave about the selfie, right? That right there is what put us or shifted us into the last echelon of a societal reset, because we began to start worshiping ourselves. We have selfies here. We got OnlyFans page. We got YouTube TED channels like this. We have, everybody's on TikTok. Everybody's out here trying to get noticed by everybody to get money, to get paid, to get, you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of emphasis on the selfie at this time. In the meantime, while this is going on and people are distracted, guess what's going on? In the background, the dollar is losing its power. There are, and believe it or not, I was over there well, I'd say Virginia area, and I picked up on this energy of a terrorist group. There's a new terrorist group that has just developed out there, and it's not Afghanistan, it's wherever they're fighting now. I want to say it's the Afghani area, but whatever it is, it's a new terrorist group that's starting to form out that way. And this group has been known to use drones and use like drones, and they're also ambushing. Well, if they haven't started yet, they're going to start trying to ambush certain soldiers. So I'm gonna put you up on what that is about right quick before I get onto the rest of it. But essentially, the way that this ambush works is like they create a small, a questionable nuisance in an abandoned part of the patrol. Like they let say you got a group of Marines or whatever, and they always patrol this city a certain kind of way, right? Although they might shift their control, you know what I'm saying? This group is finding somewhere that's isolated essentially, and they're creating a small disturbance to pique, certain patrolmen curiosity. And what they're doing is that they're using I want to say it's like network in. I think it's like network in or something like that. Whatever it is, it's designed to jam not just radio frequency, but Wi-Fi, and essentially it keeps certain electronics from being transmitted outside of a certain circle. You see what I'm saying? So once you get into that circle, or get into a certain distance into that circle, they're activating it, and then they're attacking those soldiers. And when they do that, it's like putting up a big shield, doing what they do, and then taking the shield down. And then they're going to somewhere else and they're doing the same thing over and over again, where they might have like a drone attack going here or whatever. But essentially, that's something to be watching out for. Once you see that your radio is going silent, once you see that, you're losing telecommunications, once you see that kind of stuff, either wait for backup or surveillance that circumference of that area. You're going to have to surveillance the circumference of that area. No matter what's going on, you're going to have to surveillance that circumference to see how far back it goes, so you can get a good idea of the radius. Because if that radius changes, guess what? There's a chance that person is on the move, or it's something that's mobile versus something static. Okay. So yeah, that's something to be watching out for. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so it was the creation of the selfie. So what's going on? Not only is that terrorist group out here active, right? And which is the reason why you see people like who was that? The president. That's crazy. I can't. Biden. That's why all of a sudden he's shelling out this money, because he has an interest in some kind of terrorist group that's in that vicinity. But in order, for him to address it from a safe place, he needs to develop a friendship with someone in order to get to where he needs to be at this time. So yeah, the dollar is losing its power. Our economy itself has been under attack for a while now. Debt is on the rise. It's wild. It's a lot of stuff going on. You know what I mean? But in the meantime, everybody is in this selfie phase. So what happens when there isn't, where money isn't circulating the way it should, or getting to the hands or to the people the way it's supposed to? It creates civil unrest. Whenever there is a detrimentation of an established order, it causes civil unrest. That is why in the 48 Laws of Power, we are taught that when it comes to change, you apply change slowly. You talk change, but you apply it slowly. You don't do it quickly. If you do it quickly, it will not last. And that's the same thing that happened with this civil war thing. I mean, second Civil War. Well, I don't know why I called it a second Civil War, Civil War II. I don't know why I wanted to call it Civil War II. It could be a fight over resources or whatever it may be, or something like that. But essentially, that's what happened in Rome. They started. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what. It's better if you go and look at the rise and the fall of each of these empires for yourself. I'm going to get back to the law of rhythm. So essentially, when it comes to the law of rhythm, this is the rhythm that most societies follow. There are very few societies that did not follow this, or that are just now getting into it. And those are the empires that are connected to Mesopotamia. These empires generally are, I believe, Muslim or Islamic. I don't want to offend anybody or say anything wrong. And the reason why they have not experienced this societal reset like everybody else is because of their strong belief. It's their strong belief. It's their strong belief in it's their strong belief religiously. You see what I'm saying? Their laws is not just man-made laws. These are laws that are connected to their belief system, and they are also connected to their religion. You see what I'm saying? Now, when it comes to and why that's so important is because it's like this is like, okay, it's one thing to be in America. When you're in America, you can violate laws against religion and there's virtually no consequence, depending on which law you break. You see what I'm saying? Now, if you go to, these Mesopotamian-based countries, it's not the same. And if you don't know, why did you know what I'm saying? And, not knowing isn't an excuse at all. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing is not an excuse. Okay, so like I was saying with Mesopotamia, it's like this. Eventually, maybe now they might go through like a little civil war, civil unrest or whatever, but it's not going to be as bad as it's not going to be as bad as the other ones. You know what I'm saying? Is because like I say, the foundation of their religion is basically still sticking to the primary source, God. Everything that God said in their books is what is in the law, their laws. They incorporated God into their system. These other empires, like the Greeks, they started removing religion out of their, they removed religion out of their, their law system. So it right there, that alone, it created a lot of, it opened the door for a lot of unrest to come in. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah. So essentially, that's what it means to be in a rhythm, right? Like I say, it's like a key. It's like a key that unlocks a door. So I say all of that to say this. When it comes to the law of rhythm, whatever you are consistently in alignment with is what you're going to draw in, or what you're going to repel. We talked about that with the law of polarity, where you are magnetizing your energy. When your energy is magnetized to a certain energy for so long, it begins to naturally attract whatever that is. It just naturally attracts you. You don't have to do anything. It just naturally attracts that. If you are naturally just attracting, let's say, good jobs. Let's say you naturally attract good jobs. It's because you positioned yourself and that's what you go for. Now, all of a sudden, you don't think about it. You just in alignment with good jobs and it just comes to you. You don't have to do all the extra work once you learn how to magnetize and reprogram your energy. Once you reprogram your energy, you got whatever it is you want. All right, so essentially that's the end of that. Like I say, I love y'all guys. Love y'all all. Take care. Talk to y'all later. And the next one is on the way. All right, peace.